this video I am going to talk about plants that have had maybe a flowering flush already, and it's time to give them a tidy up and get them back into shape so that they flower again for you. Hello, I'm Rosy Hardy. This is Rosy Hardy Gardening. So what happens is that a lot of plant material will come up with its first flowering flush, or perhaps you have missed the boat and you didn't get it properly cut back down as the spring came through, because if you're in the UK this year, the spring has not really left us. We're still cold, some things are growing fast, some things are not growing so fast. And you may find in your garden that instead of having really good clumpy plant material, you've got some things which have gone a little bit straggly because you didn't get in there when they needed that pruning back. Now this is Diascia Hopleys. This is a really good tall perennial Diascia, and it can get a little bit straggly, as you can see by these growths that are lower down. Now what has happened here is this is last season's old growth, which was just cut to protect the base of it, and then we've never got in there to actually give it its correct cut right the way back down so that you get good growth coming up and it looking nice and tidy. So with this particular plant you've got some horrible dead bits, and off those bits which look as though they're dead, growths have come up, and that really is what is not tidy, and that can happen in the garden as well. So what I would recommend with something like this is that some of these strong ones are perfectly okay, but this stuff is not of any use whatsoever. So it's a matter of following where it goes right the way back and cutting as far down as you possibly can. Now if you do happen to take off some old bits, then that's fine, but what I'm actually going to do with this plant is, rather than just do that sort of tidy like so, I'm going to be on the idea, yes, this is just coming into flower, but I know if you cut this plant back down, you get new growth coming up and it will flower for much longer and it will have stronger stems. So I'm actually going to go for the jugular, and I'm actually going to take everything off down to nearly ground level on this plant. And then what will happen is that it will, and get rid of all of these straggly bits. You don't want straggly bits at all, you just leave it. There's a lovely new piece coming through here. I'm going to leave that, that's going to get away. And on this plant now there are nice new shoots like this. Now this is coming from way down in the bottom here, which is where you want it. So there are two really nice ones there, there's a third one there. Those are going to be the growths that are going to come up and make this plant much better. So you can do it now. If you forgot to do that, get it done now and they will come up and they will be brilliant. This plant gets up to nearly 1 metre high, and it then makes a clump around about 30 centimetres, so a foot round at the base, up to 3 feet tall. Excellent middle of the border Diascia Hopleys. So that one you can cut right the way back down. Now there are other things which have had their first flowering flush, such as this. This is a Polemonium. This one is known as Lambrook Mauve. Last little flower heads on here, and really this is not doing any good. This is just, it's sterile, so there's no seed in here. So you need to get rid of this and you need to cut it back. Now you can do it individually and follow the stems down and cut it right the way back into the ground and tidy up in that manner, but to be honest, there's not a lot of point, because even if you do that, you're still going to get a little bit of old growth there. So my option with this is nearly always, and you will know that I do like cutting things down, so I would go for the jugular again with this, and I would take the whole thing back down again, and you can do this in your garden now, and that will get rid of it. At the same time, you may find the odd weed that has managed to get itself in amongst the plant, and there's certainly one or two that have managed to get in amongst this, and yet there was a lot of top growth there. There shouldn't be weeds in there. So now you have got a tidied up plant. If there's anything that's really old stems, you can cut those right back down. You've got something, yes, you are going to have a little bit of a bare patch. It's only going to be like that for a couple of weeks. It's soon going to start putting up new shoots, lovely new shoots. It will make a beautiful mound of really lovely green foliage with a little bit of a purple stem to it, and then it will rebloom for you in about another 6 weeks. If you have time, give it a quick liquid feed with Maxi Crop, and it will be a very happy plant, and you'll be able to have more flower later on in the summer. It's already done its first flowering right the way through the spring. So that is Polemonium Lambrook Mauve. Then you get the hardy geraniums. Now the hardy geraniums, a lot of them will have done their first flush of flower. This particular one is Geranium nodosum. It's easy to tell Geranium nodosum because it has a tri-lobed leaf and it tends to be a little bit glossy. And then it puts on lots and lots of these beautiful mauve flower heads. And you can see it's covered in seed here. And this is a good time to be actually going around and taking this seed head off, because this is a notorious seeder, but it's a brilliant plant for a shady area. So at this time of the year, some of the leaf may have died off at the bottom. So again, it's a matter of gathering the whole thing together. And this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be going and doing a tidy up right the way through, so you can tidy up, get rid of all of that. You don't need that. That stopped it from seeding everywhere and becoming a nuisance. You can get rid of old and dying material that's in the middle of the plant itself. That will tidy it up. And then in the middle here, you've got lots of beautiful young little shoots that are coming through. They are going to come back up. You will get a beautiful foliage mound again in about 2 weeks' time. And then it will also flower again for you with a second flowering. So this is the time of year to be thinking about the early spring stuff that will bloom again, giving it a haircut, and it will come back and look great for you later on, rather than it all sitting there. And especially with this one, rather than it sitting there and seeding everywhere, go and do something about it. Cut it down, it will come back, and you'll get more flower from it, and you won't get so many nuisance seedlings around the place. If you like the nuisance seedlings, then let the next lot go to seed. So those are the ones which you're going to be cutting down and doing that. There are other things which are the sub-shrubby things which are starting to grow, and some of them are getting a little bit out of hand. So for instance, you have things like the sub-shrubby salvias like this. Now they can do with a summer prune, and occasionally they put on these really wafty arms like this, and people just leave them there and they look straggly. Well, why? Why are you leaving them there? This is something that reacts to pruning. You can prune back and it will regrow. It also sends up shoots from lower down, so all of those need to get to the light. Now it is called subshrubby because it produces woody growth like this. So you get woody stems. From those woody stems you get the young growth. Now on here you've got growth that's starting to go woody, and then you've got the flowering stems here. Now they're really quite long and they're wistful. Yeah, that's great. But are they really looking good? No, they're not. So you want to go by thinking about this in a sensible manner. How big do you want it to get? The growth will follow the knife, so wherever you cut to, it will then double the amount of growth that's going to come out, but it'll be shorter. So if you've got long things which are not going in the right direction, you can take those back to a pair of buds. If you've got old wood, you can cut it back. So just go round the plant, going back and shaping it up. So initially I'm just doing a shaping up, and we are making this into a nice, neat, tidy shape. Now you see that one's even broken, so always get rid of broken stuff as well. These are all going all in the wrong direction. I want it to be a little bit more tidy and a bit more kempt. It's no different from having your hair cut, really. You know, it's just a matter of getting it all. But always go to a pair of buds. Now, yes, there's a lot of flower on here, and this is where people have a problem. They don't like cutting flower off. But if you want your plants to rebloom and look really good and look chunky, then you need to reduce the height. So something like this is a heavy branch. When it's in flower, it's going to do that. So let's bring it down, and we'll leave some of this young growth there. So we will go down to that, we will reduce it by that sort of amount. We'll go down half on all of this stuff. There are bits and pieces which are not looking so good at the back here. That just hit me in the face. I'm sorry, you're not allowed to do things like that. And we go back to buds and we just get it all into a good shape. That one is going round the wrong way. These are all flopping in the wrong direction. So as long as you go back to a pair of buds, if you've taken one shoot off, like so, you've taken one shoot off and you're cutting back to a pair of buds like there, you're getting 2 shoots. That's double the amount of flower. So don't worry that you're cutting a little bit of flower off at this time. Now we've got it into a reasonable shape, although I haven't done this bit here. We've got a couple of flowering bits here. Let's get it all to a point where there's no flower, and then it will start again. So we'll just go down with that one, and we'll take that one off down to there. And then we just need to tip out all of these so that we get 2 shoots. So from 1 down to 2, and we've done that on 20, say, stems. That means you're getting 40 flowering stems instead of 20. Now, doesn't that sound better? You will have a much better plant. So from that horrible straggly plant that we had there, we now have something which will flower and look a lot better for you. So this is Salvia Amethyst lips, and you know, any of these sub-shrubby ones, the ones which showing a bit of wood like that, in fact that needs to come off because that's a bit of dead wood there. Anything that's showing this wood like this and the soft growth, you can keep them down like that, and you can do it 2 or 3 times during the summer, and you want to be starting now. This is going to be back in flower in about a couple of weeks. Brilliant. That's just when you want it to be going. So that is the Salvia. Then you have got other slightly ones that go to a little bit of wood, but it's not true wood, and these are the perennial wallflowers. Now again, this is one of those ones where people really struggle with cutting off because there is this wonderful flower happening. But if you leave all of this flower here, the plants will do that and collapse. You also stop them from flowering on these lower stems where they should flower. Most people think, oh, well, I'm going to deadhead. So they take the one which is nearly over and has flowered all the way up the stem, and they cut it down to the next lot of flower like so. So if I just get rid of those dead heads, you've gone to that point there. Now that's fine, but you're still getting a lot of growth. So as it flowers, it's still going upwards, and you probably want it to be a little bit more shrubby. So when it's had a reasonable flower, say you've had 4 good weeks, 5 good weeks of it flowering, you're getting to a point where it's getting a little bit too tall, go back just a little bit further. So we cut one stem off to here, we've got 2 flowers there, there's a bud there. I would be going down here and taking all of that off. And the same with this one over here. I would have taken that and I'd have gone past that and gone to there. And again with this one, I would have gone past the flowering stems and gone to there. Now you have a much stockier plant, and again, you've got all of these that are going to flower, and it will make it grow and be bushier rather than becoming leggy. Let's just go over that again. I've got one more here. So instead of coming down from this flower and cutting off and just deadheading, I'm going past the next pair of flowers, looking for healthy growths, and I'm probably ignoring that one and going one further down, so that I'm taking that amount off each time. The same with this one. It's got a side shoot, but I'm going to go down to that nice side shoot there. This one hasn't got it, but I'm also going to go down a little bit further. And there you have nice stocky plants which are going to grow out here, and you will get twice as much flower on. That is the Erysimum Winter Joy. Before we get an absolute thunderstorm, I just want to finish off on Coronilla. This is Coronilla Citrina. It has much longer name than that, but this is something which will go up and it'll go tall and it'll get straggly, and it flowers beautifully. It's now having its rest at the moment. So what I would say to people now is get it back to a framework. You don't need it going up tall like this. You don't need it going out straggly like that. You want it to put on more growths, and it's got shoots here. It can grow from those. So again, it's a matter of thinking, well, where do I want to go to? Lovely strong growth here, nice strong growth there. I would go half. If you can't quite manage to get yourself to go half, go a third. Now, if it doesn't look right, you're better off doing it in stages. So if, for instance, you wouldn't just be taking the tip off, you would be taking to here. And the same with this one, you go to the next pair there. I would go further down with that one. You go to the next pair there with that one. Most people would think, oh, I'm going to go to there, there's a bit of flower there. Trim these up down to the next shoots, and then you have a moderate shape. I don't think that's good enough. I would take this one off right the way back down to there, and I would also take that one right the way back to there. Now can you see that that is a much better shaped plant, and if you really wanted to, you could take off those two pieces and then it is a really good plant. These are all going to grow away. In about another 4 weeks it will be back in flower, because this is a reblooming shrub and it is really quite fantastic. Then if you really wanted to, there are some beautiful bits on the ends of this which you can use for cuttings. Now use pruning as a way of then finding yourself and getting yourself some cutting material, because it's great. Don't just go to a plant and cut off the bit you want for your cuttings. Prune at the same time. That's one big tip that I need to get through to people. So let's just look at it quickly here. Again, leggy, a little bit leggy here. So you want to reduce it by half height, and what you're doing is you're going down to where there are growths and you're taking off like so. Now if you were coming to this plant and you were wanting a cutting, the bit that you want is literally that bit. Some people would just take that off. That is a no-no. Prune at the same time. Make the plant a good shape. So take that off down to there. You've then got, yes, more material than you need, but you can then cut it back. And again, it's a matter of getting this, and I would take any flower off it as well, getting it back to a good shape. And that is then going to grow away from there and be really bushy and shrubby rather than leggy and limp. It'll still flower when it's leggy and limp, but you've got to then hold it together. If you get them nice and shrubby like so, and you look at all these ones I've pruned back, you can see, and in fact I'd probably take this one down a little bit further. Whoops, a daisy. I would actually, to get this being really nice, I would take it off another sort of 4 or 5 inches. There we go. So nice and stocky, going to flower away, nice and stocky again there. Nothing is willowy, it's all looking good, and you will have flower on all of these again within the next couple of weeks. So that is what to remember with these sub-shrubby things, or things that get leggy at the base. Keep on giving them a little bit of a haircut, stop them from flowering for a little while, encourage them to grow. As soon as they grow, double the amount of flower. I hope that helps you all. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to watch another video of mine, YouTube thinks this one is perfect for you.